All right, this is a video request from my man Hammmered. Now, Hammmered asked, he listed off a couple of countries and said, well, who are your favorite guys from these countries? The way I would interpret that is not guys who wrestled the majority of their career in that country, but people who are ethnically or nationally of that country. Those are the people I put on my list. It's the top 5 from each of these lists. I'll just start off right off the bat with the USA, and that's easy because those are where my favorite wrestlers are for the most part. And we'll start at the bottom. Number 5 is Hulk Hogan. Hogan has been sliding in my opinion and ratings recently just because his stuff with TNA is getting worse and worse. Number 4, Scott Hall. Number 3, the American Dream, Dr. Rose, if you will, baby. Talking about some pay windows, you understand. Number 2, Terry Funk. Number 1, of course, Hawk, Road Warrior Hawk, the Legion of Doom, all-time favorite wrestler. And he's always going to be right on the number 1 list for any list that he can be a part of. Now, he goes on and he asks about, let's see, Japan. So we're going to start at number 5. I'll go with a woman wrestler, Megumi Kudo. That's how you pronounce her name. I'm not a big fan of the Japanese style, the actual Japanese wrestlers. I like when the Americans would go over there and just brutally massacre them. I'm not a big fan of Japanese wrestlers. I remember watching the Stranglemania. They had a guy, Lama Nama Numi. I put him in at number 4. He just headbutts you. I can't think of what his name is. Whatever Lama Nama Numi's name is, I don't know. Number 3, Super Delphin. Number 2, Akushi, or what was his name? Jisaki, something like that. Number 1 is going to be the Great Muda. He was really pretty awesome back in the Olympic. I actually quite enjoyed him when he'd have do the deal with J-Tex, and where he would go against Sting, and he would, it was pretty good. It was pretty believable. A lot of the problem with a lot of Japanese guys is they're so little. It's like, come on, who could you beat up? You got to be kidding me. Or if they're a little bit big, they're kind of sloppy looking, which it's just not really my deal at all. Now for Mexicans, I should the same thing. I took Mexicans. He didn't say Lucha Libre. He said, what are your favorite Mexicans? I said, all right. Well, Mexican wrestlers. Number 5, Hector Garza. And I can't stand Lucha Libre, by the way. That's my absolute least favorite type of wrestling. But number 4, Psychosis. Number 3, Juventud. Number 2, Chavo Guerrero Jr. And number 1 is going to be Eddie Guerrero. Now, he asked about Europeans. Not one single country, just all of Europe. So, European wrestlers, and most of them just don't really do it for me too much. The top 2 on this list I'm huge fans of. For the most part, I know I'm forgetting somebody when I'm putting the list together. I'm like, which guy am I forgetting? But I'll put at number 5, Magnus from TNA. He's really doing a pretty decent job. There are a lot of guys out there, like the British Bulldogs. I never liked the British. I never could stand the British Bulldogs. Particularly Dynamite. I couldn't stand watching him. Number 4 I put on the list is Alex Wright, but only as a Berlin. I really thought that Berlin character was hot. I really enjoyed that Berlin character. I never liked the Dancing Fools gimmick he would do. It just, I didn't care a thing about that gimmick. Number 3, Doug Williams, who I really wish TNA would give more a run. When they did the deal with him and AJ Styles with the TV belt, man, I thought he was great. I don't really like his finisher because it's just unbelievable. The Rolling Chaos Theory, although it's kind of a cool name. I don't much care for that one, but he's a guy who can put a match together. His psychology has good work. Yeah, he's a little small. Yeah, he doesn't have a look. Yeah, he doesn't have a build. But overall, he's pretty good. Number 2 is going to be from Belfast, Northern Ireland, is going to be Fit Finlay. And Fit Finlay, just really phenomenal. I didn't care much about him in WCW. I thought his ring attire looked horrendous, and the mullet, and it wasn't all that great, but he had a great, one great match with Steven Regal, the parking lot brawl, like the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie where they're all around the cars. And then when he came to WWE, they really capitalized and gave him a persona, a shillelagh, a leprechaun. His whole deal was great. How he'd come out and he'd use the ring apron against people and get them down there. The guy had unbelievable psychology. His matches looked great. He didn't have much of a build. He wasn't really small, particularly by the standard. He was a little small by the 90s standard, but by the 2000 standard, he was a pretty average size guy. He wasn't on the smaller side. He's definitely at least better than a cruiserweight. And he was really absolutely outstanding for a long time. He was one of the few guys to even watch in WWE. I don't know exactly what happened with him. I stopped watching WWE for like 2 years straight. And at that time, it was that time when he left, he was on top. I mean, he was almost a main event guy when I stopped watching it. But at number one, and this is one of my absolute all-time top favorite wrestlers, was Darren Matthews, William Regal, Steven Regal, call the man whatever you want. He was absolutely amazing. The facials the guy could do. And somehow he got relegated to kissing Vince McMahon's ass. That's something that I have. To quote Bob Backlund, I have abomination for that. It was one of the most ridiculous, abhorrent, and pathetic acts ever. Some of the poorest, stupidest booking. You devalue, destroy, and demoralize a talent like that. And regardless of if he cared about doing it or not, if it bothered him or not, it destroyed his character. You can't take him seriously. That's worse than Bam Bam Bigelow jobbing to Lawrence Taylor. You lose respect for the guy in a serious way. You're like, I don't really care too much about him anymore. That's the kind of attitude really hurt him. The guy had phenomenal mic skills. The guy was 6'4", 265. Yeah, he had his battles with drugs. Yeah, he didn't at all times. He didn't have a great build because of that, because of the car accidents he was in, because of the problems that he had, the demons he battled. But he was a legitimate tough guy. He had that great left hand. Did so many. I don't want to start talking about the moves in the ring, but there's so many great ones that he did, and I really enjoyed watching Regal. He was one of my absolute favorite guys to watch. The next country on Hammerd's list is Canada. I've never been much of a fan of too many of the Canadian wrestlers. A lot of them are whiny. I can't stand Bret Hart. Not a fan of any of those guys. And number 5, I put like Christian down. I mean, just a generic answer almost. I don't really like Christian that much. I liked him in TNA, but in WWE, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I pretty much skip his matches. So you can see how important the list is to me. At number 4, Santino Marella, because all his matches are almost the complete opposite of what I'm talking about, like the Brock Lesnar video. It's at least entertaining. At least I'm not skipping them, and that's saying something for him, I suppose. At number 3, Can We Be Serious, Lance Storm, but it was not the Can We Be Serious character. The WWE just really missed the ball on him. He was really great in WCW. One of the guys WCW did better with than WWE, and that happens. There are guys WCW did better with. There are guys WWE did better with. And people that would say, oh, WWE, no. WWE drops a ball on so many guys, it's ridiculous. I could go on and on and on talking about the guys that WWE did not produce correctly, did not do well with. I mean, look what they did with Vader. I mean, that was just horrendous, pathetic. And we see that over and over again. Barry Windham, they never did a thing with him. There are... I could go on and on, but that's not what this video is about. But Lance Storm did a really great job. They're number 2 on my list, and this was kind of difficult. But number 2 is Vampiro. And you have Vampiro from Thunder Bay, Ontario. Is it Thunder Bay, Ontario? Really excellent. Even though he had a little bit of a luchador in his style, he had a lot of strong style. He even had some American style into his style. I really dug his character. I thought he had great charisma. Although his mic skills were a little odd, he cut weird interviews, akin to not quite Ultimate Warrior level, but they were weird, his interviews. But a ton of charisma. A real embodiment of a rock star in the ring. The fact that he brought the Misfits with him helped as well. Although since then, apparently, there's been a big falling out between him and the Misfits, or at least, I guess, between him and Only. But then again, does Jerry Only get along with anyone? And I think the answer is no. So, at number 1, and this might surprise a lot of you, this man is Canadian, because he was never built out of Canada. And now he's more famous for being in Atlanta, Georgia, as that's apparently where he lives. We're going to be talking about the bad man from the Sudan, Abdullah the Butcher. He came down dressed up as some reason as a Muslim woman. He had the whole burqa gimmick on. But as a kid, I didn't recognize or register that. It just, And I mean... looking at him as an adult, it's kind of almost hard to take him seriously. He's, 450 of just disgusting blubber. But he looks so different from everyone else, even in the 80s where guys had different, distinct looks. I said, this guy. And he was maybe the all-time best. Maybe behind the Sheik. Maybe there's another guy you want to throw in there, but he's got to be top 3, top 4 all-time. at hiding the gimmick, of concealing the gimmick. Just taking a fork, or kind of. Sometimes it would just be like they'd take like a bunch of the same tape they're using on the wrist. They just take that tape and just work it together, and but it didn't really matter because the goal isn't to actually really hurt somebody, just to have something. And then the referee and Abdullah would stand on it, put it in his mouth, and put it down his pants. When the referee would check wherever, but that wouldn't be where it was. He was great at sleight of hand, of legerdemain, of misdirection, call it what you will. Abdullah the Butcher was absolutely a master of it. He would bleed and gush blood. And then that big snapped off elbow that Abdullah the Butcher would use was really absolutely excellent. I really thought, that move was believable. It looked good. And he had so many classic matches with so many people. I've seen some of his shoot interviews, and Abdullah seems like a complete and total irredeemable tool, which just really devalued him to me. Like, he was one of the most despicable people, just in terms of just a wretched, greedy, parasitic type of human being. And that was very unfortunate to me, because Abdullah as a kid was one of my absolute favorites. He was one of the guys that was so believable. And the believable guys are the guys I always got with as a kid. I got with Gary Hart. I got with Abdullah the Butcher. I got with Cactus Jack. I got with Stan Hansen, Dr. Death Steve Williams, Terry Gordy, guys like that. The Road Warriors that you could look and go, oh yeah, I can actually pretend to believe and engage in what's happening before me. Not like, a guy like the Midnight Express or Fantastics or Rock and Roll. You're like, oh man, come on. You just knew it wasn't real. You knew a Ric Flair match wasn't real, but a guy like Abdullah the Butcher, yeah, well, yeah, maybe, they weren't Terry Funk, because Terry Funk, when I was a kid, that was one guy I know it's not real. I don't know the guys know it's not real, but Terry Funk, I think he thinks it's real. I think he's really going to go down there and put some pain, bruise, and agony on the man, particularly when he was paired with Gary Hart, and that just amplified it, because Gary Hart just seemed, irredeemably evil. But I ask you this, Baba, you Hammmered jabroni, why do you ask about all these countries when what you know is Iran is number one, and it Iran, the Iron Sheik. Yeah, the number one champion of the world, is jabroni Hammmered. And that's, of course, my number one favorite wrestler from Iran is the Iron Sheik. An all-time great, and I don't know what kind of jabroni you can be, Hammmered, to not ask about my top favorites from Iran, and he is right there, the Iron Sheik. But there's a list to give you an idea. Like I said, overall, most of my favorites, were pretty much guys from America that went over to Japan. Guys that went from America into Japan and absorbed. I like the style. I just didn't like their guys. Like, they were too generic looking. They were too, they didn't have the size or the build. Most of them didn't have the gimmick and flair, that American gimmick, to go with that aggressive, snug style. And I thought, that's a great happy marriage for me, and what was very interesting to me in a wrestler, too, when I was younger.